tell you something. He's been around the block. He's told amazing true stories all over the country. He's a 7-time Moth Story Slam winner.
7-time?
Ladies and gentlemen, please, for wherever you are, please, right now, start giving it up for Mr. Bill Ratner.
Thank you, Christine and Hannes. My uncle, Bobby Jellison, was Bobby the Bellboy on I Love Lucy. And my uncle was a mystery, a family myth with an Irish tenor voice that was rich and rubbery, and he was an actor in a Midwestern family of school teachers and businessmen. And he was also somebody who no one seemed to really know that well. He was married to my mom's older sister, my Aunt Ellie, but they fled Chicago to find work in Hollywood in the early 50s. He was a short guy, and he had curly red hair and big ears and fat little squirrel cheeks. And he had this voice that was kind of an insinuating, intimate, funny voice that got him a lot of work in network radio in the 40s. He played the role of Calamity in Tom Mix with Tony the Wonder Horse, and Buster Gunn in The Big Guns starring Donna Reed, Muggsy Modoc in Girl Alone. And when I was a kid, I used to hide under my cowboy-themed bedspread and listen to my brother's crystal radio set at night that he made in 9th grade science class. And I'd take the little wire and kind of scrape it across the tiny crystal diode and put the headphones on and listen for my Uncle Bobby. But by this time, most of the comedies and dramas had been taken off the air, migrated to television. So I had to listen to stuff like the High Life Hit Parade Music Hour with the musical stylings of Les Paul and his fabulous guitar. Brought to you by Camel Cigarettes. I'd walk a mile for a camel. Now, when my aunt and uncle got to Hollywood, he auditioned for Desilu Studios. And he was cast as the plumber, the delivery boy, in the brand new sitcom I Love Lucy. But then when Ricky and Lucy decided that Ricky needed to be in Hollywood in order to get work for his Cuban orchestra, Bobby was cast as Bobby the Bellboy to service Lucy and Ricky in room 315 of the Beverly Palms Hotel in Hollywood. And when those episodes aired, my uncle became an instant celebrity. People bugged him for autographs on the street and demanded that he do dialogue from the show. Knock, knock. Mrs. Ricardo, it's Bobby. Hey, you know that beautiful Kelly Green ballroom gown of yours? I got it all dry cleaned for you. And I got another dozen long stem red roses from Ricky. And oh, there's a card here with it too. So my Uncle Bobby was not a bitter man when he started. He was a successful man. And he didn't have any kids. Neither did Ellie. My brother and I were their only nephews. But we never heard from them. No Christmas cards, no invitations to Disneyland. I figured there was something inviolable about the lives of the stars. And I pictured my aunt and uncle living like Nick and Nora Charles in the Thin Man movies, wearing silver lame and black velour. On a Saturday morning, I was watching Captain Kangaroo on TV, and I just hated this guy. He was such an insipid twit. Well, Mr. Green Jeans, what do we have to talk about today? But the only thing that was on at 9 o'clock in the morning on Saturday was The Adventures of Spin and Marty and Mighty Mouse. I got a phone call from my friend John Waterhouse. Bill, we're at Jim's radio and TV store, and Jim just showed us how to attach a microphone cable to the volume control of a radio and turn it into a PA system. You can hear your own voice. Now, for adolescent boys, the idea of actually being able to be louder was earth-shaking. So I bought a soldering iron. I changed every radio in my house to a PA system. John Waterhouse, Steve Gray, Skipper Hastings, and I formed the Brotherhood of Radio Stations. Our motto, never stop talking. I was determined to meet my uncle. I wanted to do what he did. And maybe someday, if I came to Hollywood, he could mentor me. I was family, But I hadn't seen my aunt since I was 6 when she came through Minneapolis on the train and gave me a black and white glossy of Bobby in front of a big RCA microphone on the Danny Thomas radio show, with his hair slicked back and the smirk of stardom on his face. I thumbtacked the photo to my wall next to a picture of the Minnesota Gophers football team headed for the Rose Bowl. I was 26 when I finally got in touch with my aunt and uncle. I called them, and my aunt picks up the phone, and I said, "Aunt Ellie, I'm coming to visit." Well, honey, Bobby's really not feeling very good these days, and there's not a lot of room for you to stay in the apartment. I said, "Look, I'm family. I want to see you." She finally agreed that I could come, but told me to stay in a motel. So I checked into the Westwood Motel on Wilshire Boulevard by the Avco Cinema on a Friday night, and Saturday morning I met my aunt in the parking lot. And she was a tentative, muddling version of my mother. She kind of nervous and very formal. And she walked me down an alley to their apartment, which in fact was a lovely, roomy townhouse, Spanish style, with lots of antiques and photos of Bobby. My uncle sat in the kitchen in a wheelchair, asleep, wearing white flannel pajamas. And I recognized him immediately. But in person, he was small and fragile, and his nose was red and swollen. My aunt nudges him awake, and he stares at me with bloodshot eyes. "Who's this?" "It's your nephew." "Give me a cigarette." "We don't smoke with guests in the house." She poured a couple glasses of cranberry juice and left the room. I rummaged about in my backpack, and I pulled out a tape recorder because I was so excited about interviewing my uncle, and I'd brought a box of videotapes of I Love Lucy episodes that I hoped he would autograph. He grabs the box. "Lucy's Zany Road Trip. California, Here We Come." He tosses them back at me, reaches around to the back of his wheelchair, and pulls out a pint of Kentucky Tavern bourbon. "Yeah, want a little taste?" No, thank you. It was 10:30 in the morning. "Put that tape recorder away. I'm tired of talking about Lucy. That red-haired bitch and her greaseball husband cheated me out of more money than I could ever imagine. So, tell me about your days in radio, Uncle Bobby." "No mystery. All you needed back then was a couple of lousy accents to act on the air. English upper crust, New York gangster, maybe Chinese or Packy. I'm tired." He looked exhausted, so I shook his hand and gathered up my gear and walked back to my motel room. 4 years into the run of I Love Lucy, the Screen Actors Guild created a contract whereby actors would get paid for residuals for reruns, which were brand new in television. And Desi Arnaz had hired the legendary German cinematographer Karl Freund to shoot I Love Lucy on 35mm film, which had never been done before. But months before the Screen Actors Guild contract went into effect, Desilu had each I Love Lucy actor sign a buyout agreement, the terms of which were never made public, which prohibited from ever making financial claims on the lucrative financial future of I Love Lucy. After an unprecedented 10-year run with a 51 share on Tuesday nights on CBS, I Love Lucy went off network and into syndication, making my Uncle Bobby one of the most recognizable actors in the world, and making hundreds of millions of dollars in syndication for CBS and the estates of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. My Uncle Bobby died of liver disease in St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica. My aunt had his body cremated, and there was no memorial service held. UCLA TV and Radio Archives had one of the most extensive collections of radio recordings in the world. So I went there to see if there's any way I could get my hands on some recordings of my uncle. The radio archivist who met me there, Ron Moeller, said that in fact they were getting rid of their collection that all the families of dead radio stars had given their radio recordings in good faith to the university were being sold off to collectors and other institutions. I looked at Ron Moeller's eyes, and like a good number of old radio aficionados, he was blind, and UCLA was laying him off. He said, they don't think radio's sexy anymore. Everything's visual now. I told him that my uncle had done network radio as an actor. Robert Jellison was your uncle? He grabbed my arm and took me down a hallway. Your uncle performed the longest death scene in the history of serial dramatic radio. He unlocks a door to a room the size of a broom closet with a turntable and a big stack of 12-inch black acetate discs. He puts his hand on top and he works his way down with his fingers, working the stack like a terrier digging for truffles. He pulls out a disc, puts it on the turntable. Harbor Detective, 1948, Chicago, NBC. They made 8 episodes. I'm not supposed to do this, but I'll make a copy for you if you want.
Wow.
He puts the tone arm down onto the turntable. All right, you rat. You're through. No, Morty. I didn't do nothing. I didn't squeal on nobody. It was the unmistakable voice of my Uncle Bobby. I swear on my mother's grave. No proper cemetery would bury your mother. Bang, 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 bang. Ah! Ah! Kerthwomp. My uncle's body drops to the floor. Ah! This goes on for a full minute. Ah! Dum, 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 dum. Tune in again next week for another episode of Harbor Detective. Foghorn sounds in the distance. My Aunt Ellie put Uncle Bobby's ashes on the shelf over his old RCA television set. And I thought of offering her my cassette of Harbor Detective as a memento that she could place next to his ashes on the shelf, but she didn't need to hear his extended death scene. She died about a year later. 2011 is the 60th anniversary of the first season of I Love Lucy. Bobby the Bellboy is still on the air. $10 million is what the show makes in syndication every year. My uncle lives on in an unpaid electronic firmament of phosphorescent black and white pixels.